Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchtime news here on TV1. For the News First team, the voice of the people, I'm Senita Senanayaka. Before we take a look at your stories for this afternoon in detail, let's first take a look at the headlines.
Stocks of medical oxygen and Pfizer vaccine doses arrive in the country. SLPP criticizes request made by constituent parties of the government to lock down the country. 2,000 rupee allowance for those who lost their livelihoods in Colombo to be doled out from today. Probe launched into an alleged threat made by parliamentarian Rishad Bathyuddin to a prison's doctor. Prices of bakery products, including bread, increased from today. Third dose of COVID-19 vaccine lowers infection risk, Israel study finds.
In your top local story, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa attended religious observances at the Temple of the Tooth in Kandy yesterday and obtained blessings.
The president, who arrived at the Temple of the Tooth, was welcomed by the Diyavadana Nilame Pradeep Nilangar Dala. The President's media division said both the President and the First Lady, Anoma Rajapaksa, witnessed the final Rangoli pageant of the Temple of the Tooth, which paraded the streets last night. They had viewed the pageant from the President's house in Kandy.
The water cutting ceremony, also known as the Diyakapime Mangalya of the Satara Mahadevalaya in Kandy, was held at the Gatambe Pier of the Mahavali River this morning.
The shaman of the Natha, Vishnu, Kataragama and Pattini Satara Mahadevalayas performed the rituals of the water cutting ceremony. The general public were not allowed to witness the ceremony in person due to the current pandemic situation in the country. The Perahera is scheduled to take to the streets from the historic Askiri Gedige Viharya at 1:42 this afternoon.
Shifting your attention to the COVID-19 situation in the country, during a media briefing today, Minister Gamini Lokuge expressed his views on the quarantine curfew imposed in the island and the criticism levelled against the decision.
අපේ සහෝදර දේශපාලන පක්ෂ අපේ කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේදී ජනාධිපතිතුමත් එක්ක එකඟ වෙලා යනවා. එළියට ගිහිල්ලා කොළ අස්සම් කරනවා.
Those in the cabinet representing constituent parties agree with the president during cabinet meetings, but thereafter issue letters asking for a lockdown to be imposed. All of them could have expressed their concerns to the president at the cabinet meeting, but did not do so. When such letters are addressed afterwards, it is evident that there is a crisis, and they seem to instigate a crisis, which is regrettable. They could have mentioned it at the meeting between government parliamentarians or even in private, expressing it to the media instead of following any of the above hints that they may have become a cat's paw. They think this is a situation similar to Afghanistan. We see the international community using our figures as tools. We intend to contain the spread of the virus first, after adhering to health directives, and then notify the people of individuals who attempt to sabotage the government's plan.
මේ රෝගේ අවසන් කරන්න මූලික කටයුතු තමයි අපි කරන අපි ජනතාවෙන් ඉල්ලන්නේ.
සියලු කැබිනට් ඇමතිවරු ඒකමතික තීරණයක් ගත්තා.
After sitting at a meeting where it was agreed not to impose a lockdown in the country, a set of ministers addressed a letter requesting for a lockdown to be imposed. We are unaware of what sort of conspiracy this is. We wish to request the president to investigate this matter because this is not the first time such a situation occurred. Agreeing to a certain decision and then addressing letters to the president against it would place the government in a difficult situation. It is wrong as well. Especially constituent parties should act more responsibly. They should engage in discourse and thereafter make decisions instead of addressing letters and sending them to the media. Stern action needs to be taken against it. We request the president to ensure such a situation does not arise in the country any further.
ඇතිවීමට ඉඩ තබන්න එපා කියන ගෞරවනීය ඉල්ලීම අපි ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ මේ අවස්ථාවේ සිදු කරනවා.
මේ රජය මිත්‍යාව පසුපස ගියා. මුට්ටි ගඟවල් වලට දාන්න ගියා.
The government chased myths. They threw pots into rivers. Parliamentarians consumed tonics at the Speaker's office in Parliament. What has happened as a result? By now, Sri Lanka has the highest death rate in the world. There are 17 million citizens in the country above the age of 12. Only 55% of that 17 million have been given the first dose of the vaccine. Only 25% of that crowd has been fully vaccinated. Why did the government fail to first inoculate those above 60 years, healthcare workers and defense personnel? Had that been done, they would have been fully vaccinated by now. A lockdown was imposed after trade unions issued a warning and the Mahanayaka Theros made a request, but we do not see it succeeding. There are many people on the roads claiming to be essential service workers. 8,000 or so COVID-19 patients have been added to the COVID-19 caseload in the country. This is being done according to their will. This has given rise to a massive crisis in the country. They have never revealed the number of PCRs and antigen tests conducted in the country on a daily basis. PCR and antigen tests have reduced over time. For now, the figure stands around 15,000 per day. When higher rates of infection are being reported, even when tests are low, we can see it as a cause for concern. But tourists are allowed to visit. Those arriving from India only have to undergo quarantine for 7 days. Tourists from Russia are also being brought in. Udayanga Veerutunga, who is conducting it, is defiant and says he will continue it regardless of any criticism. Such stubborn statements will only cause further harm to our economy and the people.
ආර්ථිකයට සහ රටේ ජන ජීවිතයට මේ කරන විනාශය වහාම නවත්තන්න කියලා අපි විශේෂම ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා.
In more COVID-19 related news, another stock of medical oxygen was brought to the island from India this morning.
Navy spokesperson Captain Indika De Silva said the SLNS Shakti of the Sri Lanka Navy had transported 40 tons of medical oxygen from Chennai, India. The Sri Lanka Navy is extending its support to ensure an adequate supply of medical oxygen for treatment purposes concerning COVID-19 patients in the country by importing medical oxygen from India. The latest stock of medical oxygen was imported pursuant to a direct request made by Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy, Vice Admiral Nishanta Ulugethanna from the Admiral Karambir Singh, the Chief of the Naval Staff of the Indian Navy. Stocks of medical oxygen were transported to Sri Lanka on 2 previous occasions by the Sri Lankan naval ship Shakti and also the Indian naval ship named Shakti.
76,050 doses of the Pfizer vaccine arrived in the country earlier today on board Qatar Airways flight QR667. Our correspondent said the aircraft landed at the Bandara Lanka International Airport around 2:50 this morning. The stock of Pfizer vaccines are currently stored at the cold storage unit located within the premises of the National Blood Transfusion Centre situated in Narayanpeta. Further 1 million doses of the Sinopharm vaccine are expected to arrive in the country tomorrow, while another 2 million Sinopharm vaccines will reach the island on the 27th of this month. 124 vaccination centers are in operation across the island today, with the Sinopharm vaccine being administered at the Viharamadevi Park in Colombo. The first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine will be administered to citizens above the age of 60 at 4 vaccination centres today, falling under the purview of the Kamburupitiya, Athuraliya and Akurasa medical officers of health in Matara. The vaccination centres are being conducted by the Sri Lanka Army. The Ministry of Home Affairs had commenced a survey to compile details of senior citizens who are above the age of 60 who are yet to be inoculated. Secretary to the Ministry NMM Chitrananda said the data is being collected through divisional secretaries and Grama Nildaris. Meanwhile, the government has decided to provide an allowance of 2,000 rupees to families who have lost their livelihood due to the temporary lockdown of the country. The Presidential Task Force on Economic Revitalization and Poverty Eradication said only low-income families who had lost their livelihoods and are not getting any other government benefits will be selected to receive the allowance. Accordingly, public servants, pensioners, Samudri beneficiaries, senior citizens, disabled citizens and senior citizens who have completed 100 years of age will not be eligible for this allowance. The Treasury has already provided the additional provisions required to pay the allowances to the district secretaries. Accordingly, the Presidential Task Force has instructed the Grama Nildari officers to distribute this allowance to the beneficiaries in a suitable manner following the health guidelines with the assistance of the Divisional Coordinating Committee and the Rural Committee. In a circular issued to the district and divisional secretaries, the government has requested to provide the receipt of the payments made to the relevant beneficiaries. Meanwhile, Colombo District Secretary Pradeep Yasarat stated that this allowance will be provided to those in the Colombo district who have lost their livelihood starting from today. The District Secretary stated that 460 million rupees has been provided for this purpose by the Treasury. Yesterday, the Director General of Health Services confirmed 183 COVID-19 deaths for Saturday, the 21st of August 2021. The COVID-19 death toll for the 21st of August consists of 107 men and 76 women, with 136 of them being above the age of 60. 2 women below the age of 30 are among the deceased. According to the latest statistics, Sri Lanka's total COVID-19 fatalities stands at 7,366. Meanwhile, 4,282 COVID-19 cases were confirmed yesterday, the 22nd of August, raising the total caseload in the country to 390,000. 40,475 patients are still under medical care.
In more local news, the All Ceylon Bakery Owners Association states that the prices of bakery products, including bread, will be increased from today. The chairman of the Bakery Owners Association, N.K. Jayawardena, said that the price of a loaf of bread has been increased by 5 rupees.
As the All Ceylon Bakery Owners Association, we informed earlier last week that the prices of bakery products will increase from Monday. Accordingly, from today, a loaf of bread has been increased by 5 rupees, a bun has been increased by 10 rupees and a kilo of cake by 100 rupees. We should also mention that all these days, many of these bakery products which were sold under the previous price scheme were prepared without meeting proper standards. It is unfair for the public. However, we too cannot continue to sell our products below par. Therefore, our intention here is to increase these prices and deliver a better product to our consumers.
Moving on to another headline-making story, the Department of Prison says a probe has commenced over an incident where parliamentarian Rishad Badiuddin had allegedly threatened a prison's doctor. Spokesperson for the Department of Prisons, Prisons Commissioner Chandan Ekanayaka, said the probe is being led by an assistant prison superintendent.
A doctor attached to the magazine Prison had lodged a complaint with the Burala police, claiming he had received death threats from parliamentarian Badiuddin. The IGP had thereafter directed the complaint to the Colombo Crimes Division for further investigations. Reports claim the doctor in question had mentioned of the alleged incident verbally and in writing to the chief doctor of the prison and also a senior official of the prison.
කොළඹ බන්ධනාගාර රෝහලේ සේවය කරන වෛද්‍යවරයෙක් මැගසින් බන්ධනාගාරයට.
One of the doctors serving at the Colombo Prison Hospital had visited the magazine prison to monitor the health situation there. During his visit there, he had treated some inmates. While he was treating inmates, parliamentarian Rishad Bathiuddin had shown up all of a sudden. Due to the rush created inside the clinic and mainly because of the current health situation, the doctor had asked the MP to remain outside until he is called. At that moment, MP Rishad Bathiuddin had made a death threat to the doctor. Following this verbal assault, the doctor had lodged a written complaint to the Commissioner General of Prisons, to the IGP, the Director General of Health Services and the Secretary to the Health Ministry as well. Following this complaint, the Department of Prisons had already initiated an investigation into the incident. This investigation will be conducted under the supervision of an assistant prison superintendent. In addition to this, the police will also conduct a separate investigation into the matter.
ඊට අමතරව පොලිස් දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව විසින් මේ පිළිබඳව පරීක්ෂණයක් පවත්වනවා.
The woes of many in Sri Lanka have compounded as a result of a drought which has hit most provinces. They have now been forced to trek for miles in search of water for their daily requirements. Although residents of the Kulayaya 40 village in Siambalandur have been provided with the necessary infrastructure to obtain water, they too have been forced to go in search of water.
This water supply project for the Kulayaya village had commenced 3 years ago, directed by the National Water Supply and Drainage Board. However, to this day, authorities have failed to provide clean drinking water to those in this village. This failure has prompted residents to make an arduous trek of several kilometers to the Hadaoya each day to collect water. Most of the wells in the village are parched and the water springing from others are not sustainable for consumption. Area residents are in dismay over the authorities' failure to provide them with clean drinking water even after utilizing their hard-earned money to establish a water supply project in the area.
66 families residing in Dumbara Ihalapola in Ratnapura are facing severe difficulties as a result of a landslide occurred in the area in June last year.
225 people belonging to 66 families in the area have been temporarily stationed at the Dumbara Mahavidyalaya due to a possible landslide warning issued by the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau. However, as a result of the situation concerning COVID-19 in Sri Lanka, the families have returned to their homes as the inclement weather receded, despite the risk of warnings issued. Even still, due to the high risk of landslides, 22 people from 6 families are still residing at the school premises. We are living here with many hardships. We have 5 children here. 6 of us have been living inside this classroom.
And that brings us to an end of this edition of Lunchtime News here on TV1. For the News First team, the voice of the people, I've been Senita Senanayaka along with my producer Ravindra Jayakodi. Take care and stay safe.